What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the TB Toycast YouTube channel. As today we are bringing you the much anticipated episode 3 of Tales of the Toybox. I hope you guys enjoy this. This is going to be such a fun episode to dive into because it's one of the most iconic toy lines of all time. And you probably already know because you already clicked on the link, but we are talking all about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Series 1. Of course, these came out in 1988 from Playmates Toys. And Turtle Mania was running wild, and this time there is no denying it. It was easily one of the greatest toy lines of all time, and even to this day, at almost 40 years old, I see these original style figures on the shelves. It always takes me back, and I feel like a lot of us probably feel the same way. I think that's why Super 7 did so well with the Turtles line. I believe that is why NECA has done so well with the Turtles line. The Turtles will always be an iconic toy line to all of us and something we will always remember. So I'm going to be diving into Series 1 here, and hopefully you guys enjoy this. Obviously, if it's your first time listening to Tales of the Toy Box, I have 2 previous episodes. Episode 1, I dove into G.I. Joe Street Fighter, which is a really fun line. And episode 2 was WWF Hasbro. So I'm trying to hit the classics. I'm trying to hit the heavy hitters. There might be a few goofy ones thrown in there. I have a couple of ideas for what I want to do for episode 4. But essentially, I want to hit the stuff that we're all nostalgic for, the stuff we grew up with, the stuff that we all remember. And I'll probably try to keep it retro. We may throw a more recent one in here or there, but again, I'm dropping these episodes about once a month. So we hope you guys enjoy it because it's so much fun. But I'm starting off with easily my favorite Ninja Turtle. He is my current favorite. As a kid, he was not my favorite, but he quickly became just that. And I'm talking about the one and only Leonardo. Leonardo, of course, the leader of the Ninja Turtles and kind of the one that keeps everybody on track, right? As a kid, I gravitated a lot more towards Raphael. As a teenager, I gravitated a lot more towards Michelangelo, but I think as I've gotten older, I feel like Leo's where it's at, and Leo's always been a favorite. Of course, he's got his katana swords and his blue headband. And if I remember right, for the toy line, initially the Ninja Turtles all had the same bandana, and I believe it was Playmates. I could be wrong on that, but I believe it was them that decided that it might be better if we give them all different colors, and of course Leo was given blue. Of course, these all come with their weapons rack, which is kind of cool, a bunch of different things. And of course he's got the L on the belt there. Just such an iconic figure, and I've always loved the packaging on Turtles. That classic logo, the brick on the background, and then of course all the different characters. I mean, we got a 10-figure wave. It was a pretty solid wave. And obviously the last 2 have both been 12 figures, which is a lot to dive into, especially when I'm trying to do a video on them. But Leonardo has always been a favorite of mine, and again, such a great figure. That notwithstanding, for every amazing hero, you need a villain. And I don't know in the 80s or 90s if there was more of a villain than the one and only Shredder. Again, this was kind of a different look for Shredder than most of us probably remember from when we saw the cartoon. He's got his soft goods cape, his belt, his kind of the jagged armor that we're accustomed to in the mask, but no shirt here. I always thought that was unique because he always wore the shirt like almost like the metal chest plate. But still, such a great figure. And again, to me, like this is one of the greatest first waves of all time. 10 figures, but it's really a who's who. And I've heard other companies talking about doing a Ninja Turtle license, and I think a big problem with that is like, where do you start and where do you stop? I mean, you got to have the 4 Turtles. You have to have Shredder. I think Bebop and Rocksteady are a must. How can you not include April? I mean, there's so many. And then you start diving into the more obscure characters, which may be not necessarily necessary for a collection, but to me, you need them. And this Shredder's great. I mean, he's got his weapons, of course. But that soft goods really brought it together for me, and I love that the Shredder foot logo on the front cover there with the actual footprints. So cool. The artwork on the packaging is absolutely top notch. And again, when you see these jump out at you, and I don't know if that's necessarily always because it's colors. I'm not sure what the right answer is on that, but something about seeing that where you're like, ooh, these are good. I got to get these, and that's to me when you know you have a great toy line, when you see it and you're like, okay, I have to get all of these. I want absolutely every one because they're the coolest things ever. And, I mentioned our third figure here. I mentioned this guy already because as a kid, he was just my favorite because this guy had the attitude. What did they say in the cartoon? He was cool but rude. He was a little bit meaner, little, a little bit more gruff, is it, maybe if that's the right word, a little bit more edgy. That's Raphael. Of course, he had the size, which I always thought those were cool because, all the other weapons are a little bit more, I don't want to say basic, but a little bit more known. So the size were a little bit different, and I always thought he was so cool. I love the facial expression, love the artwork. I mean, just, again, you can't say enough good things about the artwork on this packaging. It is absolutely top-notch. And I think that's why Mint on Card became such a thing later on, because people saw this packaging, they're like, this is phenomenal. We've got to get more of this. But Raphael, such a cool figure. Of course, he's got the red. He got the traditional, because they all had red, and he was the one that got to keep it, which I think it suits him the best, So, and it's kind of funny how we associate all the characters with their colors so much, but Raphael, such a great figure. And of course, for every bad guy, you need a couple of henchmen. And what better way than to get a couple of mutated buffoons? And that, to me, was what was so cool about these, is that they were great bad guys. I still say some of the best bad guys of all time. And this is the first one. We're going to talk about Bebop. The hip-hop or rock and roll warthog. Like, are you kidding me? What a cool... he's got the nose piercing, the blue shades, the necklace, the vest with the turtle shells on it. Which that's such a nice touch because that's their enemy, right? The turtles. It's so cool. He's got the trash can lid and the looks like a drill weapon. These guys were just great. Who didn't love Bebop and Rocksteady as a kid? I mean, just such cool characters. Again, we got that foot logo, which is amazing. We got the classic artwork up top there. I mean, just literally some of the coolest figures ever. And again, it's so cool to see on the back all that cool artwork. Such an amazing roster of characters. And I love how they have them classified too. I haven't mentioned this yet. You got the heroes, the good guys, the protagonists with the turtle shell, the villains with the foot logo. So you know right away where someone stands the second you get that figure. So very, very cool. That's the fourth figure. And then, of course, we'll go to our fifth figure here. She had several variants, but that is the one and only April O'Neil in her classic yellow. Again, I always thought April was such a fun character because the turtles, to me, this is what they needed. They needed like an ally, and April fit that bill. Of course, she was obviously a reporter, so she was kind of on the side of the turtles and helping them out, and she's got her briefcase there. Like I said, the weapons here, or the accessories rather, not necessarily weapons, were always different because they had that. They were all connected on a piece, and you tore them out as you needed them. So a little bit different, but still very, very cool. I remember years later getting one of my birthdays. Got the April O'Neil motorcycle, which I thought was awesome because, I mean, April was such a cool character, and the fact that she rode a motorcycle, are you kidding me? That's even cooler. So man, these are awesome figures, and again, I'm getting nostalgic just looking at these old turtle figures. Some of my absolute favorites. Alright, so as we go back through the original wave of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles figures by Playmates, we're going to go through the back five, of course. And like I said, this was such a home run of a line. I've already talked about the first five figures. Now we're going to talk about the second five figures. And like I said, I would put this first wave up against almost anything. It was a home run of a wave. And we start off with, he's the smart one. He's the tech guy. It's none other than Donatello. Donatello, I think, was a lot of people's favorites, especially one that might have been maybe considered a smart kid or nerdy or something like that, or geeky. Because that was Donatello, but he could also kick your butt, too. And that, to me, is what made Donatello so cool. Of course, he dons the purple gear. He has the bow staff. Very, very fun character. Always been a big fan of Donatello. I remember a buddy of mine years ago got like a 12-inch Donatello figure, and I think he found it at like a flea market and kept it for a long time and was hoping to sell it and make some money. I think he did sell it and he made some money, but not as much as he was hoping, because again, with toys, you never know. You think you might have something that's going to be worth thousands of dollars down the road. Well, that's not always the case, but like a lot of these figures, Donatello was definitely a favorite of mine. Funny story I can tell you, if I haven't already said this, I don't think that I have. I do film these not back to back, the first part and the second part, so who knows what I said in the first one. It's been a little bit anyway. But I remember at a birthday party when I was a kid, I got a Sheriff Donatello, and I was like, I don't want a Sheriff Donatello. I want regular Donatello. But Sheriff Donatello was still pretty cool. And then, of course, we talked about Bebop earlier. You got to have Rocksteady. What a villain. You got a warthog, and then you got a big rhinoceros, right? Like, these guys scream villain to me. And that's what I think is cool about it, is they were fun bad guys. They were fun because they were kind of stupid, which that's a good trademark of a bad guy. And they were fun to get beat up by the Turtles. Like, they were perfect henchmen for Shredder. I always thought those guys were so much fun. And I think that's the key to a good toy line is, like, you got these 4 Turtles, which we're going to go through the last one here after this. You got some good bad guys. You got everything kind of rolled into one line. And everything that came out after that was just kind of icing on the cake, right? Because you had a really good start with these. And I always thought that was really, really cool. But, of course, Donatello, Rocksteady, and then finally the 4th Turtle. Probably one of my favorites later on, Michelangelo. He, of course, was the party dude, the jokester, the funny guy, and always kind of usually the comedy relief of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Michelangelo is such a fun character. Of course, he donned the orange, and he had probably the coolest weapons of anyone, the nunchucks, right? Who didn't love a good pair of nunchucks? I'm sure all of us at some point or another, we were kids, slung around a pair of nunchucks. Hopefully you didn't break any lamps. I can't say the same, but always kind of cool to have a pair of nunchucks. And Michelangelo is such a great character. Always one that I will remember very, very fondly because to me he was like every turtle had like such great personality traits. Leo is the leader, Raph is kind of the hothead, Donnie is the smart guy, Michelangelo is kind of the funny guy, but they complement each other so perfectly well. And for 4 turtles that kind of look the same, to me it was very imperative that they had different personalities, and I think that's what made them work so well. And of course, you have the henchmen, but you also need the job guy if we're talking wrestling, and I'm talking about the foot soldier. What was always kind of cool about this is you could army build these as a kid. I remember I had a friend who had 3 foot soldiers, and I was so jealous of that because it was like, oh, that's so cool, because anytime they fought on the cartoon, they fought multiple foot soldiers, right? So it wouldn't make sense to have just one. You should have 5 or 6. And I remember him having 3. I always thought that was so cool. I never had 3 myself, but like, why wouldn't you have more than one? Because it was kind of like later on with Power Rangers, they had the putties. And, there was always like 10 putties that they were fighting off. So why wouldn't you have multiple foot soldiers? Just made all the sense in the world. And the foot soldier was such a creepy looking character. He's all kind of hunched over and that misshapen head. It's like, there's not a redeeming quality about this guy. So of course he works for the evil foot. And finally, rounding out Series 1, we have, of course, Master Splinter. The rat that knows ninja, of course, right? And such a fun character. And kind of, to me, embodied that family aspect that the Turtles needed, right? As opposed to being just a bunch of crazy reptiles out on their own. They have this rat kind of guiding them and teaching them the way of the ninja and kind of looking after them, which I think is important. And I think, like for Batman, he needs his Alfred. You kind of had to have that balance there. And I think Splinter had that very, very well. So really, really cool. Like I said, to me, this is a first wave you could put up against almost any other first wave of figures ever. It's amazing and really, really fun. Still, this line still holds up to me, and I'll say this, no matter how many iterations of Turtles we see, the original Playmates line will always probably be number 1. Even to this day, they released the brand new stuff from the newest movie and the old stuff, and that's the stuff that sells. Now, I understand we have more collectors from adulthood now than children, and I get that, but there's something about these classic looks of the Turtles, so I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm not. I think they're really cool, though. So let me know in the comments down below. Did you collect the Turtles figures back in the 80s? Do you collect them now? Would you like to see something new from Turtles? Because we've seen a couple of things with NECA and Super 7 and places like that, but I haven't seen a lot of new from the collector market anyway. We are obviously seeing new stuff from Playmates, so it'll be interesting to see what happens in 2025 and beyond with the Turtles license. It's always going to be around, I think, because it's such a huge deal. But I've always loved all the iterations of the Turtles. I remember even when the 2012 cartoon launched, I didn't like the look of that, but I loved that we were getting the classic characters. So I'm like, oh hey, Rat King. Oh hey, Bebop and Rocksteady. Oh, Usagi Yojimbo. They didn't look like I remembered, But at least it was the classic characters, and I always thought that was really cool. Who knows, maybe I'll cover that in a future episode. But if you got a topic you'd like me to cover on a future episode of Tales of the Toy Box, drop it down in the comments below. Make sure to check out my other videos. I do unboxing videos every single week. I do 3 a week, as a matter of fact, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We got What's on the Pegs dropping every Saturday, and of course the TB Toycast podcast dropping wherever you get your podcasts every Thursday. So check that out as well. A lot of content going at you, but I do appreciate each and every person that listens, downloads, shares it, all that good stuff. And please share it on social media. That's what helps it grow. That's what helps me find new people. I get new subscribers pretty much every day, which I do appreciate more than you guys know. So thank you guys for always backing me up and showing a little bit of support so we can get more people checking out the stuff. But that's all I got. Thank you guys for checking out the TB Toycast YouTube channel and talking all about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And we will see you in the toy aisle.
Yeah. One more time. It ain't over till I say it's over. So lock the cage up, cause this is a takeover. The wait's over. If this the final time we meet, then you'll be on your back on my feet. Then I'll tip the cage over as a hangover. I'm super fly so I can splash off the top. And I can shut down the shot.